I want to start off by saying that this video is so late, it's not even funny, but I had a lot of technical difficulties. Essentially, I ended up recording all of my gameplay without audio in the game, so yeah. And I didn't realize that that happened until I was about halfway done with the game. So instead of a normal gameplay, let's play type deal, we're going to talk about some trophies. As I'm sure you figured out at this point, I took the time to quote unquote 100% Shadow Generations. And as I'm sure you understand, Sonic X Shadow Generations is basically 2 games in one. So this video is going to be getting all the trophies in Shadow Generations specifically, and the next video is going to be talking about finishing up the entirety of the game by completing OG Sonic Generations. So with that being said, trophies. Overall, the trophies in Shadow Generations are pretty straightforward actually, and any major gameplay moments that I went through, like completing stages, beating bosses, pretty much gave me a trophy. My cat is acting weird. So the name of the game, at least the game that I played, is play through the game somewhat normally, try to grab as many collectibles as I can along the way, and then backtrack. So starting out, Space Colony Arc. I think we all understand that that was going to be the first stage by this point. Playing pretty much normally, we got that as our first trophy. Space Colony Arc Restored, for restoring the gate of the Space Colony Arc upon completing both acts. I did spend some time exploring the white space in the first little area in order to start unlocking some collectibles, and after that I ended up making my way over to the next stage, that being Rail Canyon. And after beating both acts of Rail Canyon, we got Rail Canyon Restored in the bag. Following up Rail Canyon and our first 2 trophies, we have our first boss fight. In order to open the gate, we need 3 keys, and to get the keys, we need to complete 2 challenge levels per key. For you Einsteins out there, that means we've got to get through 6 challenge stages. I normally wouldn't have any issues with this, more content for me, right? But thing is, I had a really hard time with the controls. See, the control scheme in Shadow Generations is the same as Sonic Frontiers, at least as far as I can remember, and I struggled in that game too. Not to mention the additions made to Shadow's moveset that made me have to do more than just press 2 buttons. Now, let me be clear, I don't think this is the game's fault. This is 100% me being bad and unable to adapt to the way Shadow feels like to control. I just wanted to throw that out there ahead of time because these challenge levels will be the bane of my existence, in a good way. But after making my way through the challenges and grabbing more collectibles for my troubles, we got the 3 keys and reunited with a brother of sorts. The Bio-Lizard boss fight was a nice walk down memory lane for me, as nice as murdering the rampaging prototype of yourself could be. I really liked the cinematics that are sprinkled throughout the fight though, and they add this fun little addition to many of the levels in Shadow's campaign. They highlight just how flashy and cool a 50-year-old Peachtree dish of a hedgehog can be, and I really hope they stick with that going forward. The Bio-Lizard doesn't really like style though, so after putting it in the ground, or the orange Kool-Aid, we earned the trophy Vanquished Bio-Lizard. These are not very fun trophy names. With Bio-Lizard defeated, it's back to the start of the gameplay loop, with arguably my favorite stage in Shadow Generations, Kingdom Valley. I won't spend too much time gushing about this stage, so I'll give you a quick little list of my top 3 components of it. Number 1, the camera angles are dope as hell. Number 2, the waterfall dive animation, specifically this one. And number 3, my boy Jerry the Eagle. But with Act 1 and 2 beaten, Kingdom Valley Restored is secured. Following up Kingdom Valley, we've got Sunset Heights. This stage has some really fun set pieces with the destruction going on throughout the whole stage. It's really a worthy experience to show what exactly Sonic Forces could have been. Sunset Heights Restored. 2 zones restored means it's boss fight time. Racing around, completing challenge levels nets us keys, and we open the floodgates to the boss, Metal Overlord. See how I said floodgates? Because it's in water. The return of Metal Overlord was certainly interesting due to the majority of the fight taking place in the water with the Doom Surf ability. It's a pretty simple fight though, and with the epic kick to the stomach of the dragon, we showed Metal Overlord just what we were made of. Sega, I'm doing this for you, dog. Come on, man. With our second boss down, it seems like there's one zone left. Pretty odd if you ask me, but either way, I have a trophy to grab. Chaos Island stands as the final traditional stage, and it still remains the most out of left field location to me. But regardless, Chaos Island is restored and another trophy grabbed. Side note, the gimmick of this area, or the ability, is the Doom Morph ability, conquering all terrain as they say, but for me it was more like praying I can reach the other side of the terrain. Anyway, unlike before, this time after finishing just one zone, we gain access to the boss fight, that being Mephiles the Dark, Shadow's Shadow, if you will. Overall, the boss fight was fairly straightforward, a common theme for all the bosses so far, but I definitely appreciate the callbacks and references that popped up in Mephiles' dialogue. Shout out to Ian Flynn. He makes the plot points interesting, and I don't care what Twitter says. Anyway, Mephiles vanquished. And with that, we are in the home stretch for getting through the game normally. But before we cross that finish line, we need to go back to where it all began with our favorite edgy-hedgy Radical Highway. I find it really fitting that the final zone of Shadow Generations is not only the first stage that Shadow appeared in, but also the stage that we got to see glimpses of throughout the other main stages. A really fun idea. Good on you, Sega. After flying through Radical Highway Act 1, literally at some points, we move on to Act 2. And this is where I found things to be a bit strange with the trophies. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, all the trophies associated with completing or restoring an area clearly state that the area is restored. But for Radical Highway, the associated trophy is specifically for completing Act 2 and the trophy title. Functionally, nothing's really changed. In all the previous zones, a trophy was earned after completing Act 2. But the names said the zone title and restored. It's just odd to me. That's pretty much it. But then again, maybe it doesn't say Radical Highway restored because technically we aren't done with Radical Highway. We've got a final boss to take down. Devil Doom, to no one's surprise, is the final foe of the story. But I really enjoyed the familiar yet different take on this boss fight. Now it is another flying, super powered boss fight, but unlike its original showcase in 2005, we've got doom wings, style, and funny looking explosions. Oh, and the power of love and friendship, or whatever. That's good too. But I really had fun with this boss fight, especially Devil Doom taking notes from Metal Sonic and adding Neo to his name after depleting his health bar and continuing the fight. I think this was a really fun way to close out Shadow's story, especially when factoring in the ending cutscene and the weight of Shadow's struggles as a character being on full display. My boy just ain't allowed to have anything, huh? Well, he does have friends now that Sega is easing up on earlier character mandates, so I guess it's not totally shit for Shadow. With that being said though, we've completed the story of Shadow Generations and completed all the stages, earning the trophy Shadow Generations, all stages cleared. I guess Devil Doom was erased from our world too. He don't even get his own trophy. We aren't finished just yet with the game though, because we still need to revisit all the stages, collect all the things, and help a pair of robots with a spaceship. The first of the 3 tasks I decided would be getting an S rank in all the stages. This normally would already be a somewhat time-consuming task on its own, as I needed to find all the hidden shortcuts and the best routes in order to lower my time in each stage. However, upon completing the final level, all of the stages now have an additional version of them where Shadow can activate Doom Wings, and is virtually invincible when he has 50 rings. So he basically goes super without the Chaos Emeralds. But this now doubled the amount of S ranks I needed to get, so I had my work cut out for me. Now I did try to get all 3 collectible gears per stage once I managed to get the S rank, in order to streamline the process of gathering all the trophies, and it really gave me a new appreciation for the level design, as I never really got bored or overly frustrated about things that weren't directly my fault. Now remember like 10 seconds ago when I said that I needed to get double the amount of S ranks because after the credits roll there's an option to toggle the Doom Wings on and off, that little bit there? Yeah, it turns out that didn't even matter. As long as the act itself has been completed with an S rank, regardless of which version it is, it counts. So I did a lot of extra work for no reason. Oh, and I also almost forgot to mention that the final boss doesn't count towards this apparently. It doesn't matter if you get an S rank on that stage or not. But you know what? That's okay. I still had fun. Frustrating, agonizing, tedious fun. Ultimate life form completed. Our first gold trophy in the bag means we need to lock in for the final 5 trophies, and we're going to continue onward with the non-collectible trophies. We'll be tackling the big man himself once again to get the untouchable trophy, and to do that we need to take 0 damage from the final boss and clear the stage. And let me tell you, it wasn't as hard as you would have expected. Now, I took my time and only boosted when necessary, and on my second attempt popped the trophy with only 7 seconds behind an S rank. I'd say it's a pretty good job on my part. 4 trophies left to go, and it's on to the challenge acts. By this point, I'm about 66% done with this trophy, so it's time to get the rest. In order to do this, we need to activate Doom World to open up more white space challenges, and since all we have to do is complete them, it wasn't too bad to wrap up. With 10 extra challenge stages under our belt, Shadow the Hedgehog mission accomplished is complete. 3 more trophies to go, and it's back to collecting. The difficult part going forward will be looking through every nook and cranny in white space and gathering the rest of the collectibles in the stages to unlock the chests scattered around, as well as popping balloons to collect Professor Gerald's journal pages, which I think is a pretty nice gesture considering you only got the physical version of Gerald's notebook if you pre-ordered the game physically. But if you didn't pre-order, you still get to see the contents of it. You just gotta work for it a little bit. While I do this though, I'll be keeping an eye out for rocket parts to help out my favorite robotic duo, Orbot and Cubot, to finish their rocket escape plan. After hours of running around the white space and the Doom Zone, I finally found the final piece of the rocket as well as the last collection chest to open. This snaps 3 trophies. First, all collection boxes collected for unlocking all the chests in the white space. Then, rocket has been completed? For handing over 80 rocket parts to the 3D bots. And finally, after hours of replaying and searching high and low, we earned the Platinum Trophy of Shadow Generations. That's spray painted silver. Shadow Generations hedgehogging it all up for gathering all of the collectibles in Shadow's campaign. I had such a fun time going through this game, and I really hope Sega takes the positive reviews of Sonic X Shadow Generations and uses it to keep improving the formula for the better. I won't go into too much detail as far as my thoughts on the game overall. I'll save that for after I finish up the base game and I have time to gather my thoughts and feelings on everything as a package. So for now, we did it. Shadow Generations is complete, which means we've reached the end of the video. So I'll see you guys later, and remember, keep hanging in there. Sonic Generations has returned to us in 2024 with the release of Sonic X Shadow Generations. Last time we went over my experience getting the Platinum Trophy in Shadow Generations. That's Shadow's campaign, for those of you who haven't figured that out yet. So today, we're going to go over my experience completing the main game, the meat and potatoes to this package deal, Sonic Generations. Please forgive my lateness. This would have been out earlier, but I have to work to keep the lights on. I'm an adult. So I don't plan on going over the story and the plot of the game. If you guys want that, I can do that in another video maybe, but this is a remaster of a game that came out in 2011, so I'm sure most of you know what's going on in this pretty simple game. I took a minute to familiarize myself with the trophies before jumping into the game, and I was actually a bit relieved to know that not much has changed in comparison to both Shadow's set of trophies, but also the original Sonic Generations as well. There are a few differences, however. Well, really just one, Chow. But we'll get into that later. For now, we'll get through the main story, grabbing everything that we can along the way, watch the credits roll, and then we'll circle back and finish everything else that we need to get through. So starting out, we're thrown right into the action with a lovely recreation of Green Hill Zone Act 1 featuring classic Sonic, shortly followed up by plot. Then we're back in the Green Hill Zone for Act 2 with modern Sonic, earning the trophy Green Hill Restored. Can't complain too much, it's Green Hill Zone, but this time it makes sense why it's here given the plot. All the other games in this franchise don't have that excuse. This is commentary on Green Hill being overused. After that, there's some plot that happens, yada yada. Chemical Plant. Great soundtrack, always been a bop, at least for Act 1. Act 2 adds a fun, modern twist on it that I really enjoy. Now I know all the Act 2 soundtracks have a modernized sound for the older stages, but this one just does something to me that I can't explain. Chemical Plant, restored. Best girl, by the way. Love what they did to her character in the recent games, but we can talk more about that another time. Heading on over to the last of the classic era, Sky Sanctuary. The aesthetics, great. The OST, amazing. The level design, interesting. The skill of the player, severely lacking. I don't know what it is, but playing a Sonic game on modern consoles just feels so weird compared to back in the 2010s. Feels slippery to me. That feeling is multiplied by like 20 when I'm playing this classic Sonic. Modern Sonic gave me some trouble, but once I continued playing, it started feeling a little bit better. The trick system still feels slow and kind of unresponsive, but that's me being nitpicky. Anyway, with Acts 1 and 2 finished, we saved the Red Dreadman and earned Sky Sanctuary restored. With 3 zones restored, we've arrived at the very first boss fight of the game. And as expected, there's a damn paywall. But that's okay, because it means we get to play more content. Challenge stages. These are cute little snippets of content that mix up the standard gameplay sequences with creative uses of assets and tweaks to the locales and mechanics. Some even unlock skills for Orange House Shop. Plus, we're gonna need to complete every single one of these at some point, but for now, we just need to complete 1 challenge level per zone to grab the 3 keys needed to unlock the boss gate. I won't go into detail here, but some of these stages are cute, but some haunt me in my dreams. I did spot good old Metal Sonic though, and decided to go ahead and throw him in the scrapper really quick, accompanied by one of the greatest tracks in the whole series, Stardust Speedway Bad Future, the Japanese version of course. But with that, the trophy scrap metal is secured. Death Egg Robot. Remember this little egg toy? He's returned to get whooped again, but instead of following in the footsteps of its original 1992 version, getting knocked upside the head, we opt to give him a few smacks to the behind. Of course, he retaliates with bombs and whatnot, but that hasn't been very effective since like ever. And with a few hits, he's down and whisked away by the mysterious entity, earning me the trophy, Sunny Side Up. Now that you understand the way this is going to be working throughout the rest of the main campaign, it's over to Speed Highway. A fun stage overall. I actually enjoyed both Act 1 and 2 roughly the same amount, due to Act 1 being where I felt like I started to get in the swing of things regarding the controls of classic Sonic. Act 2 is just fast and fun. Speed Highway restored. Next up is City Escape, arguably the most recognizable stage in the series aside from maybe Green Hill Zone. This stage really brings back memories of an age-long past when I didn't have bills to pay or work to do. Seeing Sonic destroying public property and racking up a bunch of insurance claim against them is a core memory for me. Shout out to Flo. But that's just Act 2. Act 1 has a fun nod to that same concept by giving classic Sonic a skateboard power-up. Sucks that it goes away when you run into anything, but it incentivizes accuracy and level knowledge. Kick flipping and nose grinding through the stage earned the trophy City Escape Restored. Following that up is the opening act from my very first video game that I've ever owned, Seaside Hill from Sonic Heroes. What a joy this stage was to play through. Both acts gave me tons of nostalgia from the soundtrack as well as the visuals, with Act 1 taking a lot more inspiration from the second half of the original stage, as well as Ocean Palace with the red and white marble everywhere and the well statues at every turn. There's even some notes taken from Hydrocity Zone with the underwater sections. Seaside Hill restored. 3 more stages completed means there are 3 keys required and a boss fight to beat. Same procedures as before. Challenge stage from each previous zone, open the gate, come face to face with a literal god. But first, there's a certain hedgehog that needs to be taken care of. Shadow has an emerald that we need to take, and with the context of Shadow Generations fresh in my mind, I can't help but wish this got altered a bit to showcase maybe some more updated dialogue in Sonic Generations, but I'm just being picky again. After showing Shadow who the real faker is, him, we earned the trophy Shadow Boxing. But moving on. Perfect Chaos is next on the chopping block. No Supersonic this time, but that's alright. Chaos is still no match for the Blue Blur. Boosting across the flooded city, we destroy the god from the inside out, meaning Perfect Punisher is in the bag. With the second boss down, we're in the home stretch of the story. Kicking off the third act is Crisis City. This stage gave me some issues in Act 1. Not as many in Act 2, but I won't complain too much since both acts were better than the source material in my opinion. I remember playing Sonic 06 on my Xbox 360, and this stage in particular being a major source of frustration, at least when it worked and I could actually try to play through it. Anyway, Crisis City restored. After Crisis City, I headed on over to Rooftop Run, a worthy Sonic Unleashed rep, but I would have liked something different than another city level in the game, just saying. The stage was fun though. I didn't have too many complaints, but too many means I do have a few, and they're in Act 1, but I'll keep them short. The climb up the clock tower, and the turning of the clock hands. If you played the game before, you know what I'm talking about, and yes, I am aware that it is a skill issue, but this is my video, so I'm pretending it's not my fault. Rooftop Run restored. Rounding out the last wave of stages, we've got the Sonic Colors representative, Planet Wisp. I can't really complain about this stage pick, honestly. I think it's a nice stage with some mildly entertaining Wisp usage in the main acts, to act as a tie-in to this stage in particular. Overall, fun time. Planet Wisp restored. I did do a bit of backtracking after finishing this zone to go squabble with the hedgehog that has a bit of a littering problem. I mean, really, Silver just takes trash, breaks it up, throws it at me, and spreads the trash out even more. Take a page from Wally and get creative with it, man. Anyway, Silver got put down by way of a giant trash ball, earning the trophy, Silver got served. Pretty accurate, honestly. With the final 3 zones restored and another hedgehog put in the ground, that leaves us with the penultimate boss to take down. I'm not going to waste time going over the prerequisites, you get the gist at this point. Side mission, keys, unlock the gate. That leaves just us and the Egg Dragoon to battle it out. It is Egg Dragoon, right? It's not Dragon. There's 2 O's, so it's... yeah, okay. Coming in from Sonic Unleashed at the end of Eggman Land, base stage by the way, the devs took some liberties since Sonic obviously shaved and stopped hitting the gym, so the fight needed to be more modern Sonic friendly, with the speed and homing attacks being the main ways to do damage. I can appreciate the skydiving section of the fight though, a nice reminder of what took place in Unleashed. There's even a nice little cutscene after beating the boss just like in the original. Boom Boom Dragoon is in the bag. I really didn't like that trophy name. Beating the Egg Dragoon did nab us the final Chaos Emerald to add to our collection. I guess I never mentioned anything about them. Yeah, after each boss fight, I got an emerald, and this was the 7th boss. This also earned the trophy Treasure Hunter for collecting them all. At last, we've reached the end of the story. After jumping in front of the oddly specific Chaos Emerald size holes in order to restore the gears, I platformed my way, with a little bit of struggle, over to the big boss gate. The bigger the gate, the bigger the boss. That sounded really dumb. The Time Eater and Eggman stand as the final boss in Sonic Generations. This boss fight is ass. It's a known fact that this boss fight is booty cheeks because the responsiveness is bad, the movement is bad, and there's no clear direction on what you're supposed to do in advance, but there's also points where the side characters won't shut up about the most obvious shit that's happening in the fight. It's really a mess. But either way, with the power of friendship, plot, and a golden spiral of energy, the Time Eater and the Egg Boys are put down and sent to the future. This future. This one specifically. Unlocking Sonic Generations, all stages cleared. With the main story done, it's time to go back through and backtrack. The worst part, in my opinion. I decided to tackle 3 objectives at the same time since they all involve the main stages. Getting all the S ranks for the Big Bang trophy, rescuing Professional for rescuing all the Chow, and Red Ring Collector for getting all the Red Star rings. Obviously, the S ranks were the easiest to get done. I just played through the stages better. In fact, I actually got a lot of the S ranks during my initial run through the zones. Not really difficult to do, I admit, but still, I feel like that's an accomplishment. Where things started to get interesting was the collecting stuff. I did the Chow before the Red Rings mostly because they were the added content in this remaster and I wanted to see if they placed them anywhere funny. And to my elation, they actually did. There were some very creative spots these little guys were hidden, and unless you're slowing down and checking every corner, you won't notice them. I, of course, used my resources and looked at the location hints in the collection room to help me out, but, I figured they took the time to give each batch of Chow a little scrapbook on the shelf when you rescue them. How could I not look and waste that wonderful effort and detail? Moving on, though, the last items needed in the main stages were the Red Star Rings, like I said before. Some of them I actually remembered from the original version of the game back in the day, but I don't think I ever went through trying to find them all back then. This time though, I had a nice time exploring the stages and discovering the different routes the devs put in each act. It gave me a newfound appreciation for the care that this game received as a celebration of Sonic's history as a franchise. While trying to find these rings, I also got to see just how much attention was given to the background assets and connecting assets that you would never think about during normal gameplay. I didn't get anything for it, but still, it was interesting. The next trophy on the chopping block required me to complete every challenge act in the game. That's 45 stages for Classic Sonic and 45 stages for Modern. 90 total. Overall, this wasn't too horrible to run through. After all, there's no rank requirement, so as long as it's done, progress was being made. The only downside was the sheer amount of stages I had to go through, but the load times were near instantaneous, so even that wasn't that much of a problem. Sonic Generations mission accomplished, done. Fun fact, after completing a challenge act, the gate for it spawns a bell. Upon ringing that bell, a musical note flies around, and upon collecting that, music and concept art is unlocked in the collection room. But that's not all. All those red star rings also unlocked items for the collection room as well. So as I'm sure you've pieced together by now, after going through all 90 challenge acts, getting their associated music notes, and collecting all 90 red star rings, I earned the trophy Sonic Generations, hedgehogging it all up. Sounds familiar if you watched my last video. We're nearing the end of this thing now, but before we jump into the final challenge, I ran over to Omo Chow's stand to buy all of the skills I unlocked up to this point, which rewarded me with the trophy Mad Skills for obtaining all the skills in the game. Now that that's out of the way, it's time to head back to the final boss of the game, the Time Eater. Our objective? Get through the whole fight without taking any damage. This sounds pretty straightforward, and honestly, it kind of is. But the issue is that the game doesn't show any indication of taking damage that I've seen when I am getting hit by the Time Eater's attacks. On top of that, the audio cue that plays is also the exact same one that plays if I fly into a random piece of debris scattered around the time tube. I went through this boss fight at least 3 times, and the first 2 times I swear I did not get hit by any attacks. I did run into debris once, but the second time around I was sure not to run into anything. I did tap the edges of the tube though, so does that count as taking damage? I don't know anymore. But the last bit of my rant that I'll share with you guys is this. If you're trying to do this, and you're not sure if you got it or not, you'll find out at the results screen. But if that trophy didn't pop by that point, you're gonna have to watch the credits each time it happens, and go from the main menu, load in, and start up the boss fight again for another shot. But I digress. 3rd time's the charm, and on my 3rd attempt, I earned the trophy Can't Touch This for taking no damage from the final boss and completing the stage. And with that, I was at last graced with the Platinum Trophy. The real Platinum Trophy this time, no silver paint. All trophies collected was mine, thus marking my completion of Sonic X Shadow Generations. This was such a nostalgic experience for me, as well as a humbling one because I remember blowing through these stages with my eyes closed back in 2011, but I had a really fun time regardless of my lack of skill. But with that, I'm ready for a nap, so I'll see you guys in the next video. And remember, keep hanging in there.